The last couple weeks, I have been dealing with a mild depression. It wasn't related to a environmental trigger, which could be something like stress or my reaction to somebody else doing something to me, or it was more biological, just being a part of having bipolar disorder. And I cycle a lot throughout the year, because I have a rapid cycling type of bipolar disorder. And it's hard to go to depression. Um, and sometimes I like to think that, oh, some depressions are easier than others that I've been in. But a friend I was talking to about that, he was like, I don't agree. Every depression is rough. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I always thought the worst depressions were actually easier than the mild depressions because you're just so out of it with the more severe the depression is. But it's actually like, but mentally you're not out of it. It's just more devastating sometimes the way it feels. But um, a big takeaway for me with this this bout of depression that has seemed to improve, it has improved, with a combination of continuing my self-care, uh, adding some medication on, with the counsel of my psychiatrist, and intervening early. I was able to figure out that I was seeing signs of mood decline and communicate that if my mood continues to decline, what is the action plan? And that was even different for me because um, usually it's somebody like my therapist who or a really close friend or family member who will say, hey, I think you might be depressed, or and at times they've even said, I think your mood's a little high, which is like hypomanic or whatever. But I was able to see that it was harder to get up, it was harder to sleep, it was harder to focus. I wasn't feeling attached, and I was feeling the need to isolate and what I call putting my head under the covers and just going away. And so was able to cut the legs off of it by early intervention, but I still had to go through it for a couple weeks. And um, I was happy that years of work and then really intense self love application over the last um, months of 2017, like the kind of like the really intense self love approach of from September to December made such huge impacts on my recovery and my resiliency in a different way that the the dark thoughts that I usually um, that have accompanied me my whole life as I can remember. The internal voices in my head, the attacks. It's really hard for someone else to hurt me because there are things that I say that are so much worse than anybody else could say. That I say to myself as an internal dialogue of having so much self hatred for almost my whole life. And but being able to reverse that and really start to fall in love with myself made a difference when over the last weeks, and even before the depression, where I was no longer just believing everything voices were saying to me. Um, I wasn't in agreement. And as much as therapy I had done, as much love and support I've had my whole life, if you hate yourself as much as I hated myself, it didn't matter what anybody said to me or did for me or did to me in a loving action. Um, I couldn't receive that. I I I never was proud of accomplishments. I never really received the love, affection that I saw, but I couldn't feel it, and that's because I had the most ultimate barrier of self hatred, deflecting all of that. And so now it's kind of like I actually get to embrace that, and I'm and been able to say to the thoughts that are so negative, that try to attack me on so many levels. It's a different conversation. I'm able to say no, 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 or shh, or just let them be, and not go into them, but different things, and also and know them to not be true. I don't have to debate them, because I know it not to be true. So I'm not even gonna waste my time in the debate. Whereas before I didn't debate because they would always win. They can remind you of the worst thing about yourself, that you choose to believe. And so this was different in that they did come. It's not like, oh, the thoughts, the voices, but I was like, what, that's not true. No, my mama does love me. Or no, that person, oh, that was so long ago, that didn't even happen, like that kind of thing. Or they don't think that, like, and it was trying all kinds of stuff. And then at a point, even more recently, in the last few days, I was actually able to have peace and stillness in my head by saying still, peace. And a lot of that has been, again, like the self-love, but also doing some more meditative things, and different forms of meditation, including swimming, and just and pausing, and that has made a huge difference, in how I was able to still go through the depression, um, self correct, pull back on expectations, but not let it get deeper or attack my self esteem and lower it. And I wouldn't have believed any of that to be able to be possible even a year ago. I would have told you I believed it, but I wouldn't have really believed it because it hadn't been my experience. And so the biggest takeaway for me is, definitely, the the trauma work has helped, therapy has helped, the medicine has helped, but the self direction of self love, and finding ways to, and using tools and different, support to find a way to love myself, has definitely been key there. So I love me, and I hope that you can love yourself too.